Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you some of my favorite first lines from the books that I've read so far. I've totally got 14 books here and these are not the only favorite first lines that I have from all the books that I've read. I've just chosen a few from the books that are on my shelves. I just went through all the books and read the first line or the first paragraph alone and then chose these top 14 books. There are also some other books which I've listened to as audiobooks only and they also have really good first lines, but I've not included them in this list because just with these books itself it is very long. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. The first book in this list is a very recent read of mine and it is the book which gave me the idea to film this video. It is Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. After reading the first line of this book, I just wanted to make this video because I know that it will be very fun. So this is the first line from the book. When I was little, my dad used to tell me, "Well, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose." Now this is from the chapter that is written by John Green and each and every alternate chapter is written by David Levithan and they both write the stories of two different characters named Will Grayson. There's a particular point in the book when both the Will Graysons meet and the things that happen after their meeting is the actual plot of the book. I chose this as the first book for this video because the tone of that first line is very humorous and it is the tone of the entire book itself. There are some sentimental moments that happen towards the second half of the book, but the humor does not go down in any level at all. I've read some of the other John Green books also before this one, but I can say that after Turtles All the Way Down, this is definitely my most favorite. If you laughed while I read the first line of this book, trust me, you can just go forward and read it. It will be very funny and I'm sure that you'll be having a really good time. The second book is something which is very dark and strong in its tone. I wanted to complement the first book with the second book. So the second book is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I've talked about this book many times in 2020 ever since I read it, and I'm sure that if you've been following me for quite a while, you would have heard me talking about this book many times already. There is no first line in this book, but we have a rhyme. I'll just read out the rhyme to you guys and you'll just understand why I love this book so much. The days were a clan that might have lived long, but Benday's head got screwed on wrong. That boy craved dark Satan's power, so he killed his family in one nasty hour. Little Michelle he strangled in the night, then chopped up Debbie, a bloody sight. Mother Patty he saved for last, blew off her head with a shotgun blast. Baby Libby somehow survived, but to live through that ain't much alive. You can clearly see that the rhyme actually depicts a homicide and that is the plot of the book entirely. One of the two main characters in this book is a survivor of the homicide and the other character is one who is imprisoned for it. And the way in which these murders are uncovered and whether the person who is convicted to have committed the crime is the criminal or not is the plot of the book. The book is just super dark in its tone, just like this rhyme, and if you're a person who likes dark, gory stories, I'm sure you will love this. The next one is one of my all-time favorite books, and after the first time I read this book itself, I just remember this first line very clearly. I have not at all forgotten it ever after I read it for the first time. It is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I'm sure you know what Six of Crows is about. Now I'll just read the first line and just see how beautiful it is. Juiced had two problems, the moon and his mustache. Now this is a chapter that is written from the point of view of a character named Juiced who does not occur for the rest of the story at all, but the way in which he has written that first line is actually something which just sets up the book really well. It is kind of sinister and you'll not be able to understand everything completely while you just read it for the first time. But if you just keep on reading the book, I'm sure that it just gets better and better and the writing is just as beautiful as this first line itself. There's nothing that much special about this first line, but the way in which she sets up the world using that single line and using the beauty of her writing in that single line itself is something which just makes it one of my favorite first lines. The next one is yet another very dark and delicious story and it is a fantasy book. It is Nevernight by Kristoff. I read this last year and if you've heard me talking about this before, I'm sure you know how much I love this one also. It is very dark and gory and super intense in its tone, so only if you can handle all those things, I'd suggest you to try this. I'll read out the first line for you guys and you'll be able to understand how humorous, funny, at the same time super dark it is in its tone. People often shit themselves when they die. That's the first ever line in this entire trilogy itself and the tone of the trilogy is exactly like that first line, okay? It is very funny in its tone, but the things that are happening inside the story are not at all funny in any way at all. There are main characters dying all the time and there are horrible things happening for the main characters at each and every chapter of the series. And trust me, if you like really good character work and world building, this is a series that is perfect for you. But you have to keep in mind that it is very strong and super violent and brutal in its tone. So if you can't handle all those stuff, this series is not one for you. But if you do like such dark, gory and intense things, I'm sure you will love the series. It is very funny, at the same time super dark, just like that first line. So just try it once if you are interested. The next one is a very underappreciated book in my opinion, and it is The Kingdom of Pack by Marie Lu. It is a fictional retelling of the life story of Nannerl Mozart, who's the elder sister of Wolfgang Mozart, and because of the patriarchy during that time, she was not that much recognized as her brother was, even though she was just as good as him. So the first line is, I'm going to tell you a story you already know, but listen carefully because within it is one you have never heard before. That is exactly the summary of this book if you ask me in just two simple lines. The emotions that the author evokes with her writing in this story are very intense and deep in their tone, and it is also a very sad story, okay? It is beautiful and sad at the same time, so I not suggest you to read it if you are sad already or depressed in some way. But if you are in a good place mentally, I'll highly suggest you to try this one because I'm sure that it is not as much appreciated as it needs to be. And I also already have a review of this book in the channel, and if there are reviews for any of the other books, all of them will be linked down in the description as usual. So please do check them out if you are interested. The next one is a very heartwarming and compulsive read if you ask me. When I read this book, I did not think that I will love this so much, but by the time I finished the book, I was just head over heels in love with it. It is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. It is very humorous in its tone. At the same time, the empathy that the author shows for each and every character inside the book is just awesome, okay? It's not even 350 pages long, and there are like 11 different characters that the author focuses on while he's narrating the story, and the way in which he has given the backstory for each and every one of the characters and makes them super real was something which was very astonishing for me. I'll just read out the first paragraph for you from the book. A bank robbery, a hostage drama, a stable full of police officers on their way to storm an apartment. It was easy to get to this point, much easier than you might think. All it took was one single really bad idea. That is what actually happens in the book in the beginning itself. There is a person who decides to rob a bank and he just holds on to some hostages inside an apartment in order to escape safely, and all the things that happen inside the book are an aftermath of that. You can try this during any part of the year and I'm sure that it will make you feel better and hopeful in every way. Next one is yet another John Green book, and there is also another John Green book after this one in the list. I don't know, but he just writes really good first lines for his books. So the book is An Abundance of Katherines. Here we follow this boy named Colin Singleton who has been dumped 19 times by these 19 different girls named Katherine, and the story starts after he's been dumped for the 19th time. The morning after noted child prodigy Colin Singleton graduated from high school and got dumped for the 19th time by a girl named Katherine, he took a bath. Again, you can see how funny the first line itself is. It just shows you the naming reason for the book. At the same time, it shows what kind of a person our main character is. It is definitely a very perfect YA book if you ask me in every way. It is very weird in its tone, just like any of the other John Green books also. At the same time, super quirky. So if you're looking forward to read a book with a nice travel, at the same time a really good friendship dynamic, I'd suggest you to try this one. The next one is yet another favorite book from last year, and it is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. It is quite a big rhyme in the beginning of the book, and I can say that that rhyme is something which will be very intriguing for you when you just listen it once itself. It is quite a long rhyme, so I'll just read it out already. Look, a riddle, time for fun. Should we use a rope or gun? Knives are sharp and gleam so pretty. Poison's slow, which is a pity. Fire is festive, drowning's slow. Hanging's a ropey way to go. A broken head, a nasty fall. A car colliding with the wall. Bombs make a very jolly noise. Such ways to punish naughty boys. What shall we use? We can't decide. Just like you cannot run or hide. Haha, truly devious. You can just see that the rhyme itself is a threat note, and the way how it ends with haha, truly devious is something which just makes the rhyme very creepy and very interesting. How this rhyme or mystery is solved in the entire series is the plot of the series, and trust me, this first book is just out of the world. It is far better than the rhyme itself if you ask me, so just go forward and try it. The next one is yet another very soulful and heartwarming book, and it is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I'm sure you know what Wonder is about. If you don't, it is about this 10-year-old boy named August who had this genetic condition because of which he had to undergo a lot of surgeries when he was a child, and because of that his face looks very different from that of normal people. And how the author captures the emotions of such a child in the first paragraph of the book itself is something which just tugs my heart always. The first chapter's name is Ordinary. I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball, I have an Xbox. Stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary, inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other kids run away screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. You can see that that first paragraph is very original and pure in its tone, okay? It just shows you the voice of that kid who's super innocent. At the same time, he is very aware of how he looks and what other people see while they are looking at him. It is a very, very well written book. So if you've not read Wonder before, just go forward and try it. I'm sure you will like it, and I do think many more people need to read this book. The next one is probably my most favorite book by far this year. It is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I'm sure you've heard me talking about this already in the channel because I've not shut up talking about it so far. I'll read the first page for you guys rather than just the first line because I think the first page will just give you an idea of how the tone of this book is. In distress, stuck in university, send help. Hello, I hope somebody is listening. I'm sending out the signal call via radio signal. Long outdated, I know, but perhaps one of the few methods of communication the city has forgotten to monitor in a dark and desperate cry for help. This is Universe City. Things in Universe City are not what they seem. I cannot tell you who I am. Please call me. Please just call me radio. Radio silence. I am, after all, only a voice on a radio, and there may not be anyone listening. I wonder if nobody is listening to my voice, am I making any sound at all? This is the kind of tone that this entire book has, and it is definitely a book which is very, very close to my heart. I'm not going to talk a lot more about it, just go forward and read Radio Silence if you have not yet. The next one is a very, very famous book. It is The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. I read this last year only, and after reading the book I was able to understand why it is so famous, because it is super mystical and magical in its tone. It is definitely not a fantasy book in any way, but the way in which the author builds up this atmosphere and makes you feel things through the stories that she is narrating to you is something which is priceless if you ask me. We follow two different storylines, and the first line that I'm going to read is from the main character from one of the two different storylines. When I was a child, I saw God. I saw angels. I watched the mysteries of the higher and lower worlds. I thought all men saw the same. At last, I realized that they did not see. Shams of Tabriz. Shams of Tabriz is actually one of the main characters from the two different plot lines, and he is probably one of the most annoying characters that I've read for the first half of the story. But after that, the way in which he flips and how we see the story from another angle just made me like that character so much. I'm sure that many people will get frustrated and irritated because of that character, but the way in which the author just shifts the dimension from which we see the story just makes it very, very awesome. I think that first line which I read to you guys is definitely something which just goes along with the tone of the book really, really well, so that's definitely a favorite first line for me. The next one is from one of my all-time favorite books, again by John Green, Turtles All the Way Down, where we follow a main character, Asa, who has OCD, and the way in which the OCD affects her life very deeply is the plot of this book. If you are a person who has OCD to some extent, I'm sure you'll be able to relate to this book very, very much. I relate to this book and this character so much, so definitely it's one of my all-time favorite books. I'll read out the first paragraph for you guys because I don't think the first line will convey the emotion properly. At the time I first realized I might be fictional, my weekdays were spent at a publicly funded institution on the north side of Indianapolis called White River High School, where I was required to eat lunch at a particular time between 12:37 p.m. and 1:14 p.m. by forces so much larger than myself I couldn't even begin to identify them. If those forces had given me a different lunch period, or if the table mates who helped author my fate had chosen a different topic of conversation that September day, I would have met a different end, or at least a different middle. But I was beginning to learn that your life is a story told about you, not one that you tell. That first paragraph just shows you how much deep each and every part of your life can be affected by OCD. For example, the main character here wants to eat her lunch between that particular time frame. It is not like anyone has imposed a rule like you have to read during this time only, but something just our mind does. It is super real and original in its tone, so please do give it a try if you're interested. The next one is Everything by Nikola Yoon. Here we follow our main character who is literally allergic to each and everything in the world. So because of that, she just lives in this single room in her home itself, and she is taken care of by her mother. The first line goes like this: I've read many more books than you. It doesn't matter how many you've read. I've read more. Believe me, I've had the time. From that first line itself, the character says that she is a person who's so alone and she has so much time in her life that she can spend it reading alone. And because of that, she has read so many books. It's definitely not a book about book lovers or anything. It's a book about this person who has lived this life totally solitary in every way possible, except for the fact that she's been with her mother. It is very unique and peculiar in its tone, and it is also a very quick read since the book is written in a mixed media format. So if you've not read it and you want something very unique in its tone, please do give it a try. The final book in this list is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I reread this just 1 month back, and trust me, it is definitely a very, very beautifully written book. It is about this 20-year-old boy named Laszlo Strange, who's a librarian, and he gets to visit the city called Weep, which is a dream for him, and he gets that opportunity to go to the dream city and just be there for a while. On the second Sabbath of 12th moon, in the city of Weep, a girl fell from the sky. Her skin was blue, her blood was red. It is not figurative in any way. The author actually literally means what's happening. A girl who has blue skin and blood red actually falls from the sky, and that's the beginning of the book itself. I'm sure that it's a really beautifully written story, and the plot in the book is also pretty strong if you ask me. If you like really beautiful writing rather than anything, please do go for and try it. I'm sure you'll not be disappointed in any way. So yes guys, those are some of my favorite first lines from the books that I've read so far. I was not able to include all my favorite first lines because some of them are from the audiobooks which I listen to. I don't have the copies of them yet, so I have not included them in this list. I'll try to make another video sometime in the future. And don't forget to leave your favorite lines from the books that you've read so far in the comments below, so that other people like me who are interested in reading those books can read out those first lines, and if they sound like something which we want to read. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.